How can I get my kids to read these type of books if they've not been Charlotte Mason educated from the beginning? Where can I combine my children to make our schedule better? How do I know that they are getting anything out of their reading? We are addressing these questions and more as we wrap up our literature series. Looking for a composition and literature course that is fully online and follows the Charlotte Mason method for the upper forms? It does exist. Find more information and check out the course offerings for the coming school year at livingliterature.net. Space is limited, so move swiftly to secure a spot for your student. Welcome to A Delectable Education, the podcast that spreads the feast of the Charlotte Mason method. I'm Emily Kaiser, and I'm here with
Liz Cottrell
and Nicole Williams.
And today we are concluding our series on literature in a Charlotte Mason curriculum. We are sure you still have some lingering questions about how to implement these lessons with your family. So we're going to be addressing some of those most common ones in this episode. Nicole, could you please start us off by discussing how we might be able to combine different children in our homeschools?
Yeah. Well, the easiest one, just the most practical one, is Shakespeare because it's done over many terms. At least forms 2 and 3 were always reading the same play. And sometimes the upper grades were reading the same play as them as well. So we can really combine there pretty good. We could read shared poetry anthologies together, maybe around the breakfast table or dinner table or something like that. I would just only warn that shouldn't be like just mom reading aloud all the time. Maybe we share, who's reading that. There is some natural overlap with mythology and history. Form 2A and Form 3, so that's 5th grade through 8th grade, should all be reading from Bulfinch's Age of Fable at the same pace. And the Forms 3 and 4, so 7th through 9th grade, should all be reading in the same chapter range of English literature for boys and girls. So there's some natural overlap. And then you mentioned something to me recently that when we do a lesson that's an introduction to a new author that our students haven't read before, that might be something that we could do that lesson with all of the kids together.
Yeah, because a lot of times when they're reading in a historical time period, we see her assign the same author's work across multiple forms.
Yeah.
They wouldn't be reading necessarily the same book, but they might have the same author.
So that might be a nice lesson together. The thing to keep in mind is that there's a lot of places we cannot combine with this. And we just, like, when we look at that whole big spreadsheet that I made, I guess you can't look at it, but of all of these books, they're all different. But all these books are mostly being read independently.
So true.
At least in the, upper form 2 and on, they're really reading these books, and they're not necessarily reading the same book as another student because the caliber of the work is getting progressively harder, and they need to be working through that as they get older. We can't be holding students back or pulling students along when it's not appropriate yet. Yeah. So, there's not a lot of other places that we can combine in this area.
Right.
Yeah.
But don't forget, they're in the same history cycle. So the literature is of the same time period, and that is a unifying thing.
Yeah, there should be lots of discussion and shared anecdotes or things that they're reading in the home, I think, between children, even if they're reading different books. Well, another common question we get is where do I put my older child that's new to Charlotte Mason into this program of literature? Because as you have been saying, Nicole, from the beginning, if we aren't keeping up with the program, they're not going to be able to keep up with the next level because it is such a step up. Yeah. But there was a note on every single program that the children, normal children, I will say, the neurotypical children, were to do the whole program appropriate for their age. Yeah. So however old they were, that's the program they got.
Yep.
And they were to read all of it.
And it was interesting that little note that's at the end of the program was highlighted next to literature. Like she was making that point.
Literally, especially about this subject.
Right.
That is what she's talking about.
Yeah.
I do think that we may need to adjust some for difficulty if a student has not been reading along, right? But I think we need to keep in mind the breadth and the variety of the types of literature they need to be reading and really start stretching them up and see if we can
Right.
get there sooner. So look
Right.
at the type of book. We might assign fewer things than they did if they're
Right.
not used to reading that, but we still want to be assigning classic, challenging books for whatever level they're at.
Right.
And obviously, we do need to adjust for learning disabilities, but please do not underestimate what your children are capable of. I mean,
Right.
I think of your son who severe, still to this day, as an adult, severely dyslexic, can read some, but not very well and, or easily. It's hard for
Right.
him.
Very.
But he is motivated to read hard books.
Yeah.
And he read a ton of hard books on audio.
Right.
As you know, he was totally keeping up with the program appropriate for him via
Exactly.
audio.
Right.
Right. Like he's one of the most well-read people that I know because of that. Right.
I do think that it is essential, though, to read literature from the time period of history that's being studied. That is one of the main objectives of the subject, both for history and literature, because the literature is describing, it's descriptive, it's illustrative, as Charlotte Mason said, of the time period that they're being studied. So, again, don't worry about what they've missed. You know, if you're in a later time period, but you're like, oh, but they haven't had all of this stuff, doesn't matter. They need to be reading in the time period that they're in history. And really, they should develop the habit of reading, and they're learning that their books are their teachers, and we are hoping and setting them up to continue reading for the rest of their lives. And I do think that a great part of this feast that we're spreading is really educating their tastes. Like, this is what Charlotte Mason meant when she said they're developing the habit of reading, right? That's what they needed to do, is she's educating their taste in what constitutes worthwhile books to read in their free time. That's why she assigned holiday and evening reading. So
She's basically setting them up to go out and continue at that same level.
yes, and just think about the variety of genres that she introduces them to, and the types of, like, it was a sad thing for Charlotte Mason when a person had very few interests, right? And we can think about that even within a subject like our literature. If we're only reading the same kind of fiction, look at even her literature is not all fiction, right? We need to be exposing our children to that. And yes, we're all going to have favorites. I enjoy certain books I read in a day, and others it takes me months to plow through. But it is all worthwhile, and that's what we're setting our children up for.
Yeah.
Were you going to say something
No,
else?
go ahead.
I was just going to reiterate how much care we have to take in choosing the best that's available in the time period they're studying in history. She absolutely knew those two things were linked together. So if you're in the 1800s, you need to maybe do a little research or look in some literature anthologies and find out who were the authors who were speaking in that century. They have to go together, and you have to discover the best in both history and literature. And choose a variety of poets, novels, plays, and essays. And we have so many essayists, it's a big deal in our day and age. But there were, from Francis Bacon on, I think he was the one who basically invented the essay. So
Or
there,
perfected it for sure.
he actually kind of formalized it at the time. And actually, even though the language is more difficult, his are a lot shorter than the ones that are written today.
That's so true.
But choose a variety is what I'm trying to say. And don't just look for books that you think would appeal to your child, that they would naturally like, because Emily said this is where we're training them for their tastes. We don't know what we like until we taste it. And I do... just take works that are representative of the time period and that or were written about that time period. Right.
Point. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a lot of Sir Walter Scott is not during
That's
the time
why
period
he was so
right.
popular, because he was writing about all kinds of things in other centuries. But even, Sir Conan Doyle that wrote Sherlock Holmes, he wrote
The Company.
The White Company, which took place in the Middle Ages. So, but stick to the classics, the best things that have always been worth reading throughout the centuries. Just know that there's no book list you're going to find that's going to make this easy for you. Charlotte Mason did not have a book list. She did not offer one because she did not have one. So, and I think as far as poetry goes, because most of us didn't grow up with a wealth of poetry in our lives, I don't think. Did you?
No.
Even my own daughter here is admitting this. Poetry anthologies can guide you because those are usually made up of the best of the poets of the time period. And if you are inexperienced with poetry, don't stay away from it just because you're afraid. You're going to be teaching your children a lot about just bravely wading into it. It is meant to be read aloud, just as music is meant to be sung, and there's no one right way to read it. You can still use punctuation marks to give you some guidance about where to breathe or pause for a second. It's not about understanding the poetry. It's about listening to its rhythm and its wordplay and feeling the words cause the feelings that they cause in you and the pictures that they bring to your mind that are being painted by that poet. Did you guys have any other things before we close here?
Oh, yeah, I have a whole section. But before
Go.
I do that, I wanted to say that I think it was around the time that we were figuring out the history rotation. So early on, I noticed that it was literature that was kind of the stretching agent in the curriculum.
Yes.
That, every new skill that children were asked to do and perfect, it started in literature. And we see that from the first with Form 1B as they are starting to narrate, right? As you said, tales that are not their own. And then as they start doing narrations, written narrations, that's what we're doing. And it's the first independent reading is, now there's a subject that you have to read something outside of class. Later, we see a few other things like that, but it started in literature, and the caliber of literature starts coming about. It's the first subject where there's delayed narration. It just seems like this is the part of the curriculum that is really growing us. It's educating us. So, yeah.
Go ahead.
As far as assessing progress for our students in literature, I mean, this may seem really daunting because literature is such a subjective subject, what they take out of it. But I would encourage you to go back and listen to each form level's lesson objectives and just ask yourself, is my child developing a living interest in this? Do I hear things coming out in his opinions that he's picked up from the books that are his teachers? Has he been able to tell about the books that he has been reading? Maybe he's telling something, but next term he's telling more. We should be seeing a growth in their narration ability. Do the things that they say about their books show that they're really interacting with the characters and ideas that these books are presenting? And do their exam questions on their literature, does it show relevance to the topic? Are they just throwing a name in there because they have to mention it? Or does it really have to do with the topic at hand? Because a lot of times she would be pulling together a current event with their literature. And do we see that connection happening? Are they including specific details from their reading? Do they make connections between other subjects in their literature? So if they are making progress in any of these areas, even if it's small, and it might be hard to see on a week-to-week basis, and really we need those term-by-term or year-by-year exams to see, you can really be assured that they're doing the work of their education.
Overall, just don't lose sight of the fact that literature is a delight, but it is an ever increasingly steep mountain to climb. But it's just like math or science or anything else. So we are their guide and their companion in this journey for them to increase the amount and the depth gradually over the 12 years. There are no sudden leaps for children from simple novels to reading Sir Walter Scott, or from Pilgrim's Progress to reading a Greek tragedy. It takes years, but we do have to pursue it. And I just loved what Emily just shared about literature being, I think of it as the trailblazer. This is what is setting the course and the caliber for all the subjects in every way. So anyway, I just encourage you to consider the fact that in our day and age, 30% of those who can read can only read at a third grade level. So it is going to take work for us to read as much as our children ought to be reading by the end of their lives, and to continue to encourage them, because it is kind of an upstream battle in this day and age.
We'll be right back. Looking for encouragement and real connection in your Charlotte Mason homeschool journey? Join us for the ADE at Home virtual conference happening February 6th and 7th, 2026 from the team at A Delectable Education. This isn't just another online event. It's a vibrant gathering of hundreds of Charlotte Mason practitioners from around the world. You'll learn alongside other parents and teachers who understand the beauty and the challenges of this life-giving method. With practical workshops, demonstration lessons at every grade level, a live Q&A, and thoughtful conversations happening all weekend, you'll walk away with renewed vision, real tools, and a stronger sense that you're not alone on this journey. And the best part? You can join from the comfort of your home and revisit all the recorded sessions anytime until May 2026. Register now at adelectableeducation.com and surround yourself with a community that's walking the same path. That's adelectableeducation.com. Come join the feast. That is it for our series on literature. You can find links to the resources that we've mentioned in this series in the show notes. We are going to be taking a Christmas break in a few weeks, but we'll be sharing with you 2 excellent sessions from presenters at last year's ADE at Home conference. First, Morgan Connor shares the benefits and joys of reading Charlotte Mason's volumes for yourself and offers practical ideas for making this happen. And then Kathy McKay will be presenting her talk, Distinguished Difficulties, which is about persevering through the difficulties that life throws at us. We'll be back in the new year, continuing to spread the feast of the Charlotte Mason method while looking at a Charlotte Mason curriculum. If you benefited from this conversation, please like and subscribe. We hope our discussion serves to equip and encourage you as we seek to explain the Charlotte Mason method. You can find the show notes in the video description or by visiting adelectableeducation.com/episodes. There, you'll find the links and quotes we mentioned in today's episode. We are so grateful for our loyal Patreon supporters who help make this show possible. If you'd like to partner with us in our work here at A Delectable Education, you can join our Patreon community and receive exclusive and early content as our thank you for your monthly support. Find out more at patreon.com/adelectableeducation. Thank you for joining us today. We'll see you next time.